Did you know that the average person spends about 90,000 hours at work over their lifetime? Yet so many of us are waiting for that perfect moment to truly start living. It's a staggering thought, almost as if we're sleepwalking through our best years, holding out for someone or something to wake us up. But here's a wake-up call, straight from the teachings of Buddha. No one saves us but ourselves. Today, we're diving deep into what it means to take control of our own lives right now, without waiting for a sign from the universe or the perfect alignment of circumstances. If you find value in exploring how to live more mindfully and authentically, doing us a simple free favor by hitting that subscribe button can make a big difference. It supports our channel and ensures you don't miss out on content like this. And remember, stick with us through the entire video. Every minute has something that could potentially transform your approach to life. So, let's unpack this together and maybe change the way we lead our lives through the Buddhism journey. It's quite the revelation when you realize that no superhero is coming to rescue you, no mystical force is preparing to sweep in and orchestrate your success. This truth might hit hard at first, but it's actually the gateway to genuine freedom. In our lives filled with dreams and aspirations, we often find ourselves looking outwards, waiting for that one big break, the grand gesture from someone else that will change everything. Yet, time and time again, life shows us that the only person who can truly change our circumstances is the person we see in the mirror each morning. Buddha's teachings reinforce this notion powerfully. He spoke of self-reliance not as a lofty ideal, but as a practical path to enlightenment. Be a lamp unto yourself, he advised, meaning we must find our own light to guide us through darkness. It's a profound call to action, reminding us that waiting for others to light our way is like waiting for a sun that never rises. We have the capability, the duty even, to ignite our own flames and illuminate our paths. This idea of independence is not about isolation. Rather, it's about recognizing that the external validations we often crave, whether from peers, supervisors, or even loved ones, hold no real power over our ultimate happiness or success. It's about understanding that our worth isn't tied to accolades or achievements seen and applauded by others, but by the strides we make when no one else is watching. The true measure of our strength lies in how we navigate the silent moments of decision, the quiet mornings when we decide to rise and pursue our goals despite the lack of fanfare. Embracing this form of independence means accepting a harsh yet liberating truth. The universe isn't conspiring against you, but it isn't going out of its way to lay down a golden path either. Our journey is ours to forge, with the Buddha's middle way as a guiding principle, balancing our aspirations with a mindful awareness of our current reality, taking action that is aligned not just with our desires, but also with our capabilities. This path of self-reliance is filled with responsibilities. It requires us to be attentive to our actions, our thoughts, and the motivations behind them. Are we pursuing a goal because it truly resonates with our deepest selves, or are we chasing a shadow cast by societal expectations? Are we moving forward out of love and passion, or are we driven by fear of inadequacy or the dread of being ordinary? Buddhism teaches us to look within and ask these hard questions, to meditate on our intentions, and to act from a place of deep authenticity. Taking that first step towards self-empowerment can often feel like standing at the edge of a cliff, the wind swirling around you, whispering uncertainties. Yet, the essence of empowerment is not found in waiting for fear to subside, but rather in recognizing that true courage comes from facing those fears head-on and stepping into the unknown. It's about acknowledging that no one outside of ourselves is coming with a rescue plan. This realization, though initially daunting, is profoundly empowering. Buddha's teachings reinforce this through the principle that we are each responsible for our own liberation. It's a call to action that has resonated through the ages. The path to enlightenment and self-fulfillment is a journey we must embark on by ourselves. Buddhism speaks to the power of self-reliance in a way that's incredibly relevant for today's world, where external validation seems constantly just out of reach, always one more achievement away. But here lies the transformative realization: you are already equipped with everything you need to begin. It's not about gathering more resources or waiting for the perfect moment. It's about utilizing what is already within you. The practice of mindfulness, a core aspect of Buddhism, teaches us to be present and aware of our intrinsic capabilities and current realities. It asks us to focus inward, cultivating a state of awareness that appreciates our strengths and acknowledges our weaknesses without judgment. In embracing this inward focus, we learn to trust our intuition and make decisions that align with our deepest values. This is where self-empowerment starts. It's in the small, everyday choices that we begin to steer our lives more deliberately. Each decision to act, no matter how trivial it might seem, is a reaffirmation of our autonomy. You choose to wake up early to meditate, to read something enriching, to say no to a commitment that doesn't serve you, or to take on a new challenge that scares you. All these actions build the muscle of self-empowerment. And what about when obstacles arise? Buddhism teaches us that obstacles are not roadblocks on our path, they are the path. Each challenge is an opportunity for growth and a test of our commitment to our own empowerment. When we view our struggles through this lens, they lose their power to derail us. Instead, they become lessons that forge our strength and resilience. Just as a tree's roots grow deeper and stronger when wind tests its stance, so too do our spirits when faced with the gales of life. Taking action also means stepping out of the passive role in which life happens to us and stepping into a role where we create our life. The Buddha once said, "Be a lamp unto yourself." What this teaches us is that the light we need to illuminate our paths can only come from within. There's no external source of light, that is motivation or inspiration, that will serve us as well as our own inner light. By relying on this internal source, we ensure that no darkness, no matter how profound, can diminish our path forward. You've probably noticed how often we chase approval from others, whether it's likes on social media, compliments on our appearance, or nods of agreement in meetings. It's almost like we're performing on a stage, constantly looking out for applause to confirm we're doing okay. But let's pause for a moment and consider a different path. One that's less about seeking approval and more about finding inner validation and strength. This is a journey deeply rooted in Buddhist philosophy, where the search for external validation is seen as a source of suffering and distraction from our true selves. Buddha taught that the desire for external validation ties us to the material world in a way that ultimately leads to disappointment. Why? Because people's approval is fleeting and often fickle. One day you are praised, the next you could be ignored. This roller coaster can leave us feeling insecure and constantly on edge. However, when we turn inward and start to validate ourselves, we find a much more stable and fulfilling path. This doesn't mean becoming arrogant or aloof. It's about recognizing our inherent worth and not letting the opinions of others dictate our happiness or self-esteem. Consider the lotus flower, a symbol that is revered in Buddhism for its ability to rise from the murky water below and bloom into a beautiful flower at the surface. It doesn't stop to consider whether it's being watched or judged. It just naturally grows towards the light. Similarly, we too can focus on our personal growth and journey towards enlightenment, regardless of who is watching or what they might think. This process involves deep self-awareness and mindfulness, qualities that allow us to understand our true motivations and the often unconscious desire for external validation. By practicing mindfulness, we can observe our thoughts and feelings without attachment, recognizing when we are seeking validation and gently guiding our focus back to our own path. This helps us cultivate a sense of self-acceptance and peace, regardless of the external feedback we might receive. We learn to trust our inner voice and rely less on the fleeting judgments of others. This shift is liberating. It frees us from the invisible chains that bind us to societal expectations and allows us to live more authentically. Buddha's teachings on the middle way also offer valuable insights into how we can balance our interactions with the world. Engaging with others doesn't have to mean losing our sense of self or constantly adapting to earn their approval. Instead, we can interact from a place of self-confidence and stability, offering our true selves to the world without the constant need for validation. This balance enables us to engage in healthier, more genuine relationships, where our self-worth isn't on the line with every conversation or interaction. It's an empowering realization when you discover that the need for external approval is not only unnecessary, but can be a significant barrier to personal growth and happiness. We live in a world where the nods of others often dictate our paths, from the careers we choose to the life decisions we make. This constant search for validation can be exhausting and frankly unfulfilling. Yet what if we shifted our focus inward? What if we started to measure our worth by our own standards and found peace in our own judgment? Buddhism teaches us about the importance of self-reliance, not in the material sense, but emotionally and spiritually. The Buddha famously advised, "Be a lamp unto yourself." This statement is a profound call to self-validation. It encourages us to seek wisdom from within and to trust in our own insights and judgments. This doesn't mean rejecting advice or feedback from others, but it does mean that the final arbiter of our choices should be our own well-considered insights. Imagine the freedom that comes with no longer being swayed by every passing opinion or fleeting trend. When you validate yourself, you're not being arrogant or dismissive of others. Rather, you're recognizing that the person best equipped to understand your needs, desires, and capabilities is you. This kind of self-validation strengthens your ability to make decisions that are truly right for you, uninfluenced by the fears or biases that others might project onto you. Self-validation also teaches us to appreciate our efforts and progress, regardless of external recognition. Just like a tree in a forest that grows tall and strong whether anyone sees it or not, we too can develop and flourish independently of outside approval. This is not about isolating ourselves, but about cultivating a sense of inner stability and confidence that doesn't waver in the face of external uncertainties. In practice, self-validation can look like celebrating your own achievements without waiting for someone else to congratulate you. It involves trusting your gut when making decisions, rather than seeking consensus from everyone around you. It's about setting personal goals based on what truly makes you feel fulfilled, not what might impress others. Furthermore, self-validation is crucial for mental health. It can shield us from the negative impacts of comparison and competition, common in our interconnected digital age. By anchoring our self-esteem in our own assessments, we become less susceptible to the fluctuations of public opinion and social media likes. This steady internal compass guides us to choices that genuinely align with our personal values and long-term happiness. Moreover, the Buddha's path emphasizes the middle way, a balance between extreme asceticism and indulgence. This principle can be applied to our quest for validation. Rather than oscillating between seeking approval from everyone or rejecting societal norms entirely, we find a balanced approach, valuing others' opinions but not being dependent on them. Self-validation does not happen overnight. It's a skill that we cultivate through mindfulness and reflection. Meditation can be an excellent tool in this process, helping us to connect with our true selves and diminishing the noise of the world around us. Each session of mindfulness brings us closer to understanding what we truly need and want, not what we've been conditioned to believe is necessary for happiness. Stepping out into the unknown can often feel like standing at the edge of a cliff, with the wind whispering, "What if you fall?" But in the teachings of Buddhism, there's a gentle counter-question. What if you fly? Embracing the first step with courage is not about being fearless. It's about recognizing that the true essence of courage is to act despite the fear. This is a profound lesson from the Buddhist approach, where readiness is seen not as the absence of fear, but as the presence of bravery to move forward regardless. Buddha's journey itself is a testament to taking bold, uncharted steps. Before becoming the enlightened one, Siddhartha Gautama lived in a palace with every conceivable luxury and protection. Yet he chose to step outside these comforts to seek the truth about life, a move fraught with uncertainties and devoid of any clear roadmaps. His quest wasn't driven by reckless abandon, but by a courageous commitment to finding deeper meaning and understanding. This story encourages us to take our own first steps, not when we feel ready, but when we recognize that growth and enlightenment require it. When we wait to feel fully prepared or perfectly confident, we might find ourselves stuck in an endless loop of anticipation. Like a bird hesitating on the edge of its nest, wondering if it's the right time to fly, we can become paralyzed by our own doubts. However, as the Buddha taught, life and its myriad experiences don't wait for our perfect readiness. The path to greater self-understanding and fulfillment unfolds as we walk it, not before. Each step, even the shaky ones, builds our strength and clarifies our direction. It's important to remember that taking the first step isn't just about big, life-altering changes. It applies equally to the smaller, everyday acts of bravery. Deciding to speak up in a meeting, joining a new class, or even reaching out to mend a strained relationship can all be acts of courage that propel us forward on our path. In Buddhism, every action taken with intention is significant, weaving together the tapestry of our life's journey with threads of thoughtful choices. Moreover, the act of beginning can unleash creativity and possibilities that waiting never could. Just as a stone creates ripples across the water the moment it breaks the surface, our actions set into motion a series of effects that extend far beyond the initial splash. With each courageous step, we not only reshape our own lives, but also influence the world around us in ways we might not even realize. So how do we cultivate the courage to take that first step? It starts with mindfulness, another core principle of Buddhism. By being fully present in the moment, we can observe our fears without letting them dictate our actions. Mindfulness teaches us to acknowledge our feelings of apprehension, explore their origins, and gently challenge the narratives that hold us back. This self-awareness is crucial because it transforms fear from a roadblock into a signpost, guiding us towards our true priorities and values. And if you're wondering about the practicality of taking the first step, consider this. Every journey begins with a single step. It doesn't need to be perfect, nor does it need to be fully assured of success. What it needs is your intention and your motion. In Buddhist teachings, the emphasis is often on right effort, not merely the outcomes, but the quality and mindfulness of our actions. This means that our first step should be directed by a sincere effort to improve, to learn, and to grow, regardless of the immediate outcome. Impermanence isn't just a concept to understand, it's a reality to live by, especially when it comes to handling life's inevitable failures. Think about it. Every experience, whether it feels good or bad at the moment, is bound to change. This idea is at the heart of Buddhist teachings, which remind us that everything is transient, and even our failures are not permanent fixtures in our lives, but stepping stones to greater understanding and resilience. Now, when you face failure, it's easy to feel like it's the end of the world, but remember what the Buddha said about impermanence. Everything that arises will also pass away. This includes every misstep and setback. Instead of viewing failure as a final destination, we can see it as part of a dynamic process of continual change and growth. By doing so, we can detach from the sting of defeat and see each failure as an opportunity to learn and evolve. Let's dive a bit deeper into this. When we fail, it's natural to ruminate on what went wrong, but there's a transformative power in looking at these moments through the lens of impermanence. It teaches us that the impact of failure isn't fixed. Our next actions can change its course. Just as the seasons change and the tides turn, our mistakes are not the end, but transitions to new beginnings. It's like watching a river flow. It might get blocked or diverted, but it always finds a new path forward. This perspective encourages us not to get too attached to any single outcome. In practice, this means when things don't go as planned, rather than getting stuck, we learn to adapt. Consider the famous saying about Thomas Edison when he was inventing the light bulb. Each failure brought him closer to his goal. He famously remarked that he didn't fail, but found 10,000 ways that didn't work. His persistence wasn't about fighting impermanence, but rather embracing it, using each failure as a clue to pivot and try anew. Furthermore, embracing impermanence helps us maintain a healthy distance from the results of our efforts. We do our best, but also accept that the outcome might be different from what we expect. This detachment is crucial. It means putting in the effort but letting go of the outcome, allowing us to engage more fully with the process rather than just the end point. When we focus on the process, we enrich our experience and often arrive at solutions we could never have planned. There's also a profound humility in accepting impermanence. It reminds us that we are not the sole authors of our destiny, but part of a larger, ever-changing tapestry. This doesn't mean we lack influence. Rather, it highlights the importance of adaptability and flexibility. We start to see ourselves as participants in a greater flow of life, where our ability to respond and adapt is more valuable than our ability to predict and control. Time waits for no one. This truth, though often heard, sinks in deeply when we pause to consider the fleeting nature of our existence. Buddha's teachings repeatedly emphasize the impermanence of all things, urging us to act with urgency, not out of fear, but from a place of understanding. Each moment we let slip through our fingers is a lost opportunity, a melody unheard, a chapter unwritten in the story of our lives. In the tapestry of our days, how often do we tell ourselves, "I'll start tomorrow," or "next year will be the time"? It's a common trap, believing that there is an abundance of time. Yet every ancient wisdom, including Buddhism, teaches us that the only moment we truly have is now. The concept of impermanence is not just a philosophical musing, it is a practical guide for living. Everything around us, everything we are, is in constant flux, evolving, changing, and one day ceasing to be. If we live as though we have endless tomorrows, we may find ourselves at the end of our journey with a trove of unspent dreams and unrealized potential. Consider the cherry blossoms, a symbol in Eastern philosophy of the beauty and transience of life. They bloom in stunning beauty, creating a canopy of color that captivates all who behold it. But within a week, their petals fall, a poignant reminder that their time is brief. They don't wait for the perfect conditions. They bloom the moment they can, seizing the fleeting opportunity to dazzle the world. Like the cherry blossoms, we too must embrace our moments. Waiting for the right time can be paralyzing. The perfect time, the perfect conditions, they're illusions that hold us back from starting a project, from telling someone we love them, from stepping onto the path of our dreams. Buddha's last words to his followers were about the importance of diligence. He said, "All conditioned things are impermanent. Strive on with diligence." This wasn't merely a call to spiritual practice, but to life itself, to live fully, with the awareness that none of us are promised a tomorrow. This understanding should not lead us to despair, but to action. It should be the fire that fuels our every endeavor, pushing us to act, to speak, to love, and to live right now. The urgency of now isn't about a frenzied or chaotic rush through life. Rather, It's about the clarity that comes from recognizing each day's irreplaceable value. It's about deciding to write that first page of your book today, to start painting now, to begin learning something new this moment. It's about realizing that waiting is often the greatest barrier to living. How many times have we put off a phone call to a friend or delayed pursuing a passion because we believe there will always be more time? In the end, you are the sole architect of your life. No one else can walk your path or live your dreams. Will you continue waiting for the perfect conditions, or will you step forward and trust the journey, however unclear the road ahead may seem? Remember, clarity emerges through action, not before it. You don't need permission, validation, or approval to start, only the courage to take the first step and the discipline to persist. So take charge, embrace the present, and start building the life you were meant to live. Thank you for being part of Buddhist Journey, and let this be the moment you choose to step beyond fear and truly embrace your path.